Thank you to the LEGO Group for sponsoring this video. Today I'm going to be showing you how I made this. Welcome to this year's LEGO Christmas behind the scenes video. We are going to be going over how I made that video, including stop motion animation, digital animation, and of course, keying out a blue screen. So let's get into it. Today on Elf Forecast, the weather is going to be cloudy with a chance of presents. Initially, I was thinking maybe I could try to set design something to feel like Santa's workshop, but then I realized it would be much more cost efficient and time efficient if I just created this scene inside of Blender. So to pull this off, we set up a 5x7 blue screen behind me and a table covered in blue felt in front of me. This would represent the conveyor belt where toys are gonna be passed in front of me before I turn them into LEGO creations. Why did we do blue screen? Well, because my elf outfit was green, so there's that. So I had Nate create one with a old sweater, some felt, and a lot of hot glue. It came out pretty good in my opinion. With the costume on, I went ahead and got positioned on set in front of the blue screen, and we ran through the actions a few times. 3, 2, 1, action. The goal was to look like I was taking inventory of the toys that were passing by, and then a candy cane comes in front of me. I pick it up to inspect it, and then I acted as if the candy cane was transforming inside of my hand. I then held as still as I could as the candy cane was switched out with the LEGO variation, and then pretend to touch all the objects that are passing in front of me and watch as they turn into a LEGO build of some kind. That felt good. With the base footage out of the way, the next step was to keep the camera and the lights exactly where they were, and then connect my camera to my laptop where I'm able to use Dragon Frame to capture the stop motion elements for this video. We just wrapped up filming the base shot of the video, now we're doing all the stop motion, so let's jump into it. The first element to capture was a pine cone that transforms into a LEGO Christmas tree build. The next thing was a feather coming into frame, turning into a penguin as it then hops off my conveyor belt. Get off that conveyor belt. I don't know, that was stupid. Get off that! Finally, we had to capture the creation of the LEGO candy cane in front of the actual candy cane. The last transformation was actually a wheel into a LEGO train. This I thought would be best captured digitally, not doing traditional stop motion, so we'll save that one for later. As the guys were working on the stop motion side of the video, I brought in the initial footage to begin the keying process. The first thing I did was mask the footage just so we have the essentials in frame and removing everything else we didn't need. Then I used an instance of Keylight, Key Cleaner, Advanced Spell Suppressor, and Refine Matte. We were able to actually get a key that came out pretty great. Now for the moment Nate slides his hand into frame to hand me the candy cane, I had to paint out his hand, and I also wanted to retime the footage so the candy came in sooner when my eyes are actually looking for it. This is why it was very important for me to keep half my body as still as I could while Nate was sliding in the candy cane, so it'd be very easy to put a clean plate on top of that. And then it involved very minimal transformation tools and puppet warping and a little bit of fading to make sure it wasn't very noticeable. I then rotoed out the candy cane and then retimed it so it came in earlier in the footage and resumed its proper timing once I picked it up. The transition from the real candy cane to the LEGO candy cane was actually just a jump cut, and we actually used the stop motion creation as a way to kind of hide the scene. And thanks again to the LEGO Group for sponsoring this video. With the footage ready to go, it was time to go inside of Blender and begin creating Santa's workshop. The very first thing I did was bring in the footage and get my camera in position. I then blocked out some rough geometry to try to figure out what I wanted the room to feel like. And so what I settled on was kind of an open A-framed branch of Santa's workshop where I'm just one of the elves doing my role. So the first thing I created was the actual conveyor belt. This was created by elongating a rectangle, creating an indent, which is where the conveyor would live, and then giving it two different textures. Both were actually wood plank textures. I thought it looked a little bit more in line with the Christmas spirit than a traditional conveyor belt. Because I shot this on a blue screen, I made sure the conveyor belt itself also had a slight blue tint to it so that it would make sense for the reflection color that you see on my hands when I'm interacting with it. With that in place, it was time to start decorating the room. First, I put a wood plank texture on the sides and the back of the room. I then placed a fireplace in the corner of the back of the room, and this would actually mimic the light that was hitting my shoulder. For the baseboard, I actually just set up a row of stones. I also put some shelves with some gift wrapped presents in the background. I also put a little workbench on the right-hand side, and then some bags scattered throughout the room that could be sacks full of Santa's letters. It's up to your imagination. To get the conveyor belt to move, I actually linked the location of the texture to an empty that I was able to slide throughout the scene. This gave me control to move the conveyor belt with the items I was gonna place on top of it. I then proceeded to light the scene in a way that felt very similar to how we lit it in the real world, with a large soft lamp hitting me from one side, a fill light on the other end, the fire to replicate the red light on my shoulder, and we were good to go. The transition from the wheel to the Lego train was gonna be done last. I had the wheel fling up and swing around, and the train kind of mimicked the movement and then moves off to the side of the conveyor belt. I then disappear from the shot, and now the camera is free to move in really tight on the conveyor belt because at this point, it's purely digital. I brought in the model of the minifigure that I wanted, lined up the camera as best as I could with the actual shot where I'm landing on the conveyor belt. Then I animated the arms and legs and facial expression until we had this. Coffee break? With all that done, it was time to render all of this out in Blender and bring it back to After Effects. I then composited on the stop motion element of the Lego candy cane transforming inside of my hand. I then masked my hand back in front of that to make it look like the candy cane was truly inside of my grasp. Then I brought in the shot of the pine cone transforming into the Lego Christmas tree. I keyframed it frame by frame to make sure it lined up with the conveyor belt coming in and also going out. I did the same exact thing for the Lego feather turning into the penguin. At the end of the video, when I tapped myself on the head with the candy cane, I used the lens flare to hide the transition of turning into a little minifigure. And that pretty much sums up everything that went into it. Hey, what's up? It's Caleb from the future here. I realized as I was working on Santa's workshop, I actually went back into Blender and I reworked a lot of the aspects and details of the room to make it feel a little bit more bright and cheery and more Christmas themed, such as the garland and the Christmas lights, rearranging and adding furniture to the room, putting the windows on the back wall instead of the side walls, and making it a cool night sky outside while it's nice and warm and bright on the inside. I also went ahead and retextured and changed the color of the conveyor belt in front of me to make it more bright and cheery as well. And finally, I decided to bring the stop motion elements inside of Blender directly, so that way we get all the reflection and shadow details. And finally, with all of those changes, these are the end results. And there you have it. That is the final video that I was able to make. Thank you for watching the creative journey from beginning to end. I also really want to thank the LEGO group for allowing me to partner with them, making not only this video, but actually 2 other videos for the holiday season that I thought came out pretty awesome. If you want to check those out, I'll link them below as well. Thank you again for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.